Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 11th part of What If Deku Can't Stop Adopting Kids. Hope you enjoy. Link to the original story and author in the description. Chapter 56, The Cavalry. Oh my god, it's huge! Mina shouted, as she and her other classmates stood at the front gates of the Midoriya household, most of them with their mouths agape except for the 3 rich students and the 2 others who had seen it before. Yes, it is indeed a rather large house, Ida said while chopping the air. I mean, it would have to be considering it's meant to hold all those kids, Shoto added. I suppose this would be considered large for the average person. Momo didn't really have much of a frame of reference for these things. She knew her house was bigger than most people's, but if this was big enough to send most of the class into a stupor. Alright, everyone, let's go. Achiko pumped her fist into the air. With fire in her eyes, she ran up to the intercom on the gates, her luggage floating next to her. Izuku! We're here! After a few moments, the gates opened up, allowing them to enter, with all their luggage in tow. Whoa! Look at that tree! Toru pointed at the grim tree with all its color-painted leaves. It's so pretty! I don't think I've ever seen a tree like that before. Momo took a closer look at it. Are those leaves fake? Aha! The kids made the leaves. Also, the tree is actually a grim, so don't do anything dumb or it will attack you. Achiko warned. Brah! It's a tree. How does it attack? Kaminari asked. As if to answer that question, an apple dropped from the tree, screaming and chopping the air with its big teeth. Rah! 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 As it faded away, everyone stood silent for a moment as if to contemplate what the hell they just saw. Never mind, Kaminari said as he and a good chunk of the class moved away from the tree, walking quite a bit faster than they did before. Just gonna pretend that I didn't see that, Toru said as the rest of the class moved to catch their classmates. Before they reached the front door, it opened up, and Fu, Nara, and Ken walked out. So, you guys are from the UA Hero course. Ken squinted at them, inspecting each one of the students. I expected more. Nara smacked her brother in the head, before turning to Class 1A and giving them an apologetic bow. I'm so sorry about him. He's an idiot. It's an honor to meet you all. Yes, it is nice to see you all again. Fu nodded. Ah man, that kid is as monotone as ever, Kaminari commented. And still as cute. Mina giggled, suppressing her urge to glump. Nice to see you, too, little man. Kirishima said. It's great to see you again, Fu. Achiko smiled kindly at the zombie boy, before turning to Ken and Nara. And you two are Ken and Nara, right? Izuku said you two were the oldest ones under his care. That's right. The name's Ken, future #1 hero. Ken boasted, as his sister rolled her eyes. Not when you have the IQ of a rock, you won't, Nara smirked, as her brother stuck out his tongue. My name is Nara, unfortunately, I'm his sister, but please don't let that lower your opinion of me. Well, you definitely act like siblings. Sue shook her head, as she was briefly reminded of her own family's antics. It's lovely to meet the both of you. Am I to assume you're here to bring us to Midoriya? Momo asked the children. Yup, follow us, Fu said abruptly, before turning around and walking through the door into the house, with class following suit. XXXXXXXXX. After a brief walk through the house, getting lots of oohs and ahs from the class as they took a trip through what was essentially a mansion, except for of course the rich kids, until they reached Izuku's office. Man, this is a pretty snazzy place to work, Kaminari said as he walked over and inspected the desk. With a nice view too. Mina went over to the window and looked outside, squealing with glee. Ah! Look! It's Kiba's backyard. Forget her backyard. We're gonna be taking care of Kiba herself. Ah, she is such a queen. Toru squealed as well. Suddenly the 3 kids got squeamish. I wouldn't get too excited, Ken warned them. Kiba hasn't exactly been herself. That raised some concern among the class, particularly from the ones who watched Kiba like Mina, Momo, Kirishima, Toru, Kaminari, Tsu, and of course, Achiko. Even Dark Shadow came out looking concerned.
What happened to the little queen?
Dark Shadow asked with big sad eyes.
She didn't take Izuku's collapse well, Nara admitted tentatively.
And even when she recovered, she didn't go back to acting the way she did before. She's more normal. But she always seems distracted by something.
Even I don't know what's going on with her, Fu admitted with a slight pout. But it's concerning.
Mina thought about what she just heard for a moment, before giving a determined pout and pumping her fist. I bet she's still sad because her dad is sick. We're gonna have to cheer her up.
Yeah! Shouted the Kiba fans in the class.
Well, good luck with that, Fu said, before walking over to the door that led to Izuku's room.
But first, let's talk to Dad.
The Zomboy opened the door and led Class 1A inside, where they saw Izuku laying down on the bed, with a seer and 2 Beringels at his side.
Hey, guys.
Izuku gave them a weak smile, before going into a small coughing fit.
It's nice to see you all. Sorry I had to call you all here.
I must have caused you all so much trouble. It was nothing, Achiko said real quickly before she went over to Izuku's side and started inspecting him.
Have you been eating enough? Sleeping too? And please tell me you haven't been moving around.
The doctor told you not to be moving for at least a week after you got out of the hospital.
Oka's gone into concerned wife mode.
Mina wisped a bit too loudly, but Achiko seemingly either didn't hear her or ignored her.
I'm fine, I couldn't neglect my health even if I wanted to.
The kids have been doting over me way too much.
Izuku sighed.
And these two aren't just here to help me out, they're also here to keep me from getting up.
Good, I'll have to thank Yami for that. Achiko made a mental note to do that later. Hey there, Midori. Nice to see you again. Mina greeted, giving him a friendly wave. Don't worry about pulling us from class.
I was looking for a break anyway. While I am unhappy about our leave from school, I am more than glad to do so if it means helping children in need.
Ida shouted. Indeed, and while we will be away from UA, we will be receiving schoolwork from our teachers.
Momo emphasized that last part, electing groans from her less academically motivated classmates as well as Ken. Well, in that case I'll try not to give you too much work, Izuku told them.
Nope. You're not lifting a finger.
Achiko put her hands on her hips and gave him a stern look.
We came here to work, and that's what we're gonna do. Yeah. We're not getting paid to sit around. We're gonna work and work hard. Kirishima shouted. But maybe not too hard, Mineta added.
Just make sure to leave enough time for us to train, Shoto told him, in his typical disinterested tone.
Well, alright then.
I'll leave it up to you guys to divide the work.
Izuku explained to them. But it will be a lot of work.
Firstly, you'll have to feed all the children every day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner times, which means you have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get breakfast ready.
Shouted out a few of the students. 5 in the morning.
Mineta complained, looking like someone told him he had a terminal disease.
Feeding the kids takes a while because you have to make all that food. That's 12 normal dishes, along with feeding Fu and Kyosei their enormous amount of meat.
You have to make Netsu's food in a very specific way so he doesn't burn it while eating. Kai's food needs to be delivered in front of his room in a very specific way, and you also have to give Shiroku her combination of human flesh and dead spiders.
Izuku explained.
Ugh. Toru's face contorted in disgust, not that anyone could see it. And you also have to make sure they have snacks that they can eat throughout the day stocked in the fridge.
Izuku continued.
Speaking of stocked, you'll also have to keep stock of not just the food, but all the supplies that are needed around the house. There is a comprehensive list of that in my drawer. I had Mom label it for you. The seers should be able to help. Hearing its name, the seer made its weird clicking noise that creeped a few of the students out.
Yeah, what is that thing?
Kaminari asked, looking thoroughly unnerved.
It's creepier than normal grim, somehow.
Oh, this.
This is a seer. Izuku pointed at the orb grim.
They can act kind of like a combination of moving phones and security cameras. I have a bunch of them patrolling the house and the forest around the house, and they'll warn you if anything's wrong, like if one of the kids broke something, or if there is an intruder. You can also use them to check on things, keep watch of all the kids, and help count inventory. As well as a variety of other things. They're the most useful Grim by far, so you should keep one by at least one of you at all times. Many of the students didn't look too thrilled about this.
Alright, but getting back to what you were talking about before. What tasks will we have to do while working here? Momo asked. Izuku took a deep breath. Well, besides food and inventory, you'll also have to deal with house maintenance.
Inspect the house for any damages, and make sure everything is in working order, and if there are any issues, you'll have to call someone to fix it. This will mostly consist of one of the kids breaking and destroying something, and you having to replace or fix it. Also, you'll have to deal with all the appropriate paperwork that comes with repairing and maintaining parts of the house. Also, you'll have to manage their education, come up with lesson plan for all of them and then teach them in one of the classrooms. You'll also have to give personal allegiance to Fukunoko and Mu because they're too shy to work around others, although maybe that's changed for Fuku, you'll have to check. On top of that, you'll have to tutor the kids who didn't fully understand your lesson and make sure they do. Also, you'll have to handle requests from the children for certain objects at the end of every week. Also, you'll have to keep up and support all the kids' hobbies. Also, you'll have to help with pretty much all the kids' quirk training. If the kids get into a fight that's not sparing, then you'll have to break it up and punish them, before making them get along again and cheering them up later. If one of the kids has a personal issue, you'll either have to deal with it yourself or bring them to me. And you'll also have to deal with my financial paperwork, managing the money that comes in from the government, as well as managing the money I'm sending to my mother's company, selling Shiroka's leftover webbing, selling Fu's intact remains, as well as other things of which you will find a comprehensive list of in my desk. Also, you'll have to maintain the forest. The kids like to play and train there, so it almost constantly needs to be repaired, replanting trees, filling holes, etc. This of course will require you to make a few calls and fill out the necessary paperwork.
And dash. XXXXXXXX. That's about it. Izuku finally finished.
Class 1A, as well as Ken, Nara, and even Fu were all looking at him in shock. Achiko was the first one to break out of her stupor.
You were doing all that by yourself?
Achiko shouted at him, enraged.
Izuku winced under her gaze. If you weren't recovering, I would slap you. How did you even manage to do all that for as long as you did? Momo asked in a mixture of amazement and disbelief.
A mix of determination, good time management, and good pain tolerance, Izuku explained.
Dude, that's manly, but also too much. Kirishima shouted. Midoriya. Knowing one's limits is an important part of life.
While I admire your determination, you should have hired help to take on this workload long ago.
Ida chided.
Yeah, man, when you needed pain tolerance just to do your job, that's when you should have figured it was time to take a break, Siro told him.
I get it. Izuku sighed. I was being dumb.
But that's in the past, and we need to move forward.
Momo nodded. He's right. Scolding Midoriya now won't do us much good. We need to divide this work among all 19 of us. Actually, Mom is here too. She's in the kitchen cooking lunch right now. Izuku told them.
She's been very insistent on helping, so if you need help with pretty much anything, then she'll be there. Then we'll have to give her our thanks when we see her.
Ida shouted, before turning to the class. Now, how many of you know how to cook?
Sato, Aoyama, and Ajui raised their hands.
Alright, only 3, 4 including Mrs. Midoriya. Ida thought about it for a moment. I'm not sure that's enough.
Hey, don't forget about the people that live here.
Nara reminded them. Yanda and Yami have helped out in the kitchen before, they can be there to help you guys if you need it. Actually, that might be for the best. It's good if they learn how to cook for themselves, and it keeps them active. Sue pointed out. I see. In that case, we'll ask the children how many of them want to help. Ida determined.
But aside from the volunteers, Ajui, Oyama, and Sato will be in charge of the cooking alongside Mrs. Midoriya.
I can help with house maintenance. Achiko piped up.
My parents run a construction company, actually they work for Izuku, so I should be able to deal with all the construction stuff and the paperwork.
I see, then I'll put you in charge of that. However, I would like Shoji and Jiro to assist you.
I believe their quirks are the most suited for these tasks.
Ida said.
I'll do my best, Shoji said.
I'll try not to mess it up.
Jiro seemed a bit less sure, but it's not like she was gonna refuse. Kota, I think you could use your animals in combination with the seers to better inspect the forest, Momo told the quietest member of the class.
Kota nodded, still not saying a word as usual.
Yaoyorozu and I will handle the lesson plans.
Ida said. Mina, Ajui, you two strike me as people who are good with children. Could you two handle teaching the children?
Of course.
Mina immediately rose to the challenge.
I may not be the smartest, but I can teach a bunch of grade schoolers. I think I'll want to help you with the lesson plan. You might make it a bit too intense for them, Ajui told them.
Oh, and can I help too?
I love dealing with kids.
Toru requested. If you insist. Ida agreed. Now for quirk training. I'll help Eri. Achiko immediately volunteered. Her issue is power control, right? I had that same problem.
I think I can help her out the most.
Agreed. Sato, can you help Kiba with her restraint training? Momo asked.
I'll do my best.
Sato agreed. Is anyone here into horror movies? Izuku abruptly asked. I am, why?
Mina was happy to share her love of horror movies, but she was a bit confused as to where that question came from. Fukunoko's training consists of her watching horror movies and trying not to activate her quirk, Izuku explained.
So it would be best if you were the one to handle her training.
That's the fear gas girl, right?
Mina seemed a bit hesitant. I'm gonna have a gas mask for this, right? Of course, Izuku answered quickly. Okay, then it should be fine. Mina still seemed a bit tentative. We'll get along like two peas in a pod. Lastly, we have Netsu. Momo turned to Shoto. Todoroki, can you dash? No. Shoto quickly refused.
Everyone was kind of taken aback by his sudden refusal, and so the bicolored boy explained.
I don't use my fire.
Therefore, I have nothing to teach him.
Shoto said curtly.
Wait, I thought his quirk made ice.
Fu asked, slightly confused.
His quirk is half cold, half hot. From his right side, he can make ice, and from his left, he can make fire.
Izuku explained to the kids.
It's a very powerful quirk, but he only uses the ice for some reason.
What? Why? Ken asked, confused as to why anyone would limit themselves like that.
That's none of your business, Shoto said, his voice cold, with a bit of an edge to it. Geez, you're such a grump.
Mina scolded. Yeah, kinda unmanly, Kirishima added. Shoto just stayed silent, stoic, and stubborn. Well, if you won't train Netsu then, who will? Momo asked.
No one else had any sort of fire-based power, except Ken, and he wasn't exactly a master of controlling Heat Blast's abilities either. I suppose I will teach him.
Tokoyami volunteered.
I too have a great power I must control, lest I destroy all around me. Perhaps my experience can assist him.
I suppose that is the best option we have.
Momo gave Shoto a questioning look, but the frosty body just gave her the cold shoulder. And with that taken care of, Kirishima, Achiko, Tokoyami, Todoroki, Shiro, Sato, Mineta, and I will be in charge of handling any fights or outburst from the children. Given how powerful they are, I believe we are the most equipped to take them down quick, and with harming either the children or ourselves. Most of the people Momo listed seemed up for this, however, Mineta seemed more than a little upset. Ah man, why am I on the front lines in case one of these nuclear toddlers has a meltdown? Mineta mentally bemoaned. Alright, with that in mind. Uraraka volunteered to handle the paperwork involving construction, but we'll also need people to handle the various other types of paperwork. Ida pointed out. I feel the best people to be assigned to this are myself, Yaoyorozu, Todoroki, and Mineta. Keeping Mineta away from the kids, good idea Ida. Through the girls collectively. And we can all do standard house chores such as cleaning, laundry, and washing dishes. So if anyone is available they can take care of those tasks. Momo told everyone. There was a general murmur of agreement among the students. Alright, now I think it's time I introduced you all to the children. Izuku decided as he leaned over to the seer. Gather all the kids in the backyard. It's time they meet our guest. XXXXXXXXXX. After a few minutes, everyone had gathered in the backyard. Izuku was still in a wheelchair, being handled by none other than Hachiko. Class 1A were faced opposite to the children, with most of them giving off warm smiles. Inko was also present, standing next to the children. Everyone, this is Class 1A. They already know who you all are, so there is no need for introductions. Izuku explained. Hello, children. Some of you may remember me, but to those who don't remember me, I am UA class representative, Tenya Ida. Ida introduced himself. And I am Vice Representative Momo Yaoyorozu. Momo went next. I am Yuga Aoyama. Aoyama said while doing an overly flamboyant pose, and I dash. I'm Mina Ashido. You can just call me Mina. Mina said, while moving in front of Aoyama, and giving Kiba an eager grin. And I'm president of Class 1A's Kiba fan club. Hey! We never agreed on that. I want to be the president. Toru objected. Yeah, just saying you're the president without talking to the rest of the club is really unmanly. Kirishima crossed his arms and gave Mina a disapproving look. Yeah. As the person who met Kiba first, I should be the president. Hachiko insisted. Wait, when was there a club? Momo asked, confused as to when this started. While the Kiba fan club bickered, Kiba herself looked unsure. Oh thank you all for watching me. That caused them all to stop and look at the girl oddly. It was easy that Kiba was not acting like herself, and they wondered what exactly was causing this huge shift in personality. While the Kiba squad was stunned, the rest of the class took the time to introduce themselves. And while they did, Kyoko was staring at them while hiding behind Kai. She didn't trust these people as far as she could throw them, and given her tiny body that wasn't very far. Especially that guy with the twin-colored hair. He looked so condescending. And she really didn't trust the short ball-haired guy for some reason. But her daddy needed the help. He tried so hard to do it all by himself, and it hurt him so bad. And these people were friends with Hachiko, so that gave them at least a little bit of credit. She would see how these people did. And if they tried anything funny, she would tell her father straight away. Kyoko would be more vigilant. She had to be. She wouldn't allow something to hurt her family like this again. Chapter 57, Shorts 13. While many of his classmates may have had an issue with waking up at 5 and immediately getting to work, but not Sato, he was always an early riser. Often using his mornings to work out. Although now he doubted he had time for that. After all, he had a lot of food to make. Alright. Sato stood in the kitchen, looking at his helpers. Azui and Aoyama were of course here as they were both assigned to help. Inko was also present, as Izuku said she would be. Some kids had also come. Fu and Sanson felt like helping, and since they never had to sleep, they didn't have a problem waking up so early.
Yanda and Yami had been helping out the whole time anyway.
Yanda out of a sense of wanting to be useful, and Yami for the same reason, and also because he wanted to learn how to cook. Nara was also present, as she felt a sense of responsibility, although her brother was nowhere to be found.
Fuku didn't join them as she no longer felt it was as necessary as before.
Alright. So today we're gonna be making tamago cake gohan, with some vegetable toppings,
Sato declared. Yami, can you take care of giving Kai his food?
The frightful child nodded and left to go order his Grim to airdrop Kai's food to him.
Fu, can you get your food from the fridge? Sato asked the zombie boy. Yes, we can. Cold doesn't affect us much,
Fu said, before walking towards the fridge. Right, Sanson, your body can stretch around the whole kitchen so you stay on standby and get us what we ask for, Sato told the slime girl, as she gave him a big cartoon thumbs up.
I can also be in multiple places at once. Nara turned to her Omnitrix and selected an alien.
And then, after a flash of pink light, she transformed into Ditto.
Watch.
Nara's body then seemingly split in two, creating a duplicate of herself.
That's great. How many clones can you make? Sato asked her. 20, Nara answered, her voice cartoonishly high-pitched.
I can only do this for 10 minutes though.
That should be all we need, Sato said.
15 of you can go set up the tables and deliver the meals, and you can keep 5 clones here to help cook.
On it. Nara nodded. Everyone else, get ready to cook,
Sato shouted as he raised his fist into the air.
Yes, Chief, cried everyone. XXXXXXXXXXX. MMMH. Man, this is good, Kaminari said, as he and many of his other classmates, as well as the children, just destroyed their meals. Yee. Fifth Gruut, Nina said with a mouth full of food. Ashido. Do not talk with your mouth full, Ida scolded. But you are correct. You all did an excellent job with the cooking.
Yes, Sato, nice job. Achiko praised the muscle-bound cook as she ate.
Don't give me all the praise, everyone did their part. Sato looked to his helpers. You all did amazing. Couldn't have made as much food without you guys.
I'm used to making food for my siblings already, so I'm kinda used to having to do things like this, although this was obviously on a much bigger scale, Su said.
Moa. Obviously, I am able to cook, Aoyama said, flamboyant. Myself in the kitchen is a dazzling sight to see. Man, you are like a living stereotype, huh? Ciro asked the Frenchman. It was fun,
Yanda said while she had a mouth full of food.
Pretty much everyone was satisfied, except for 2.
Ken and Kiba, neither of whom liked vegetables all that much.
Ugh.
Ken groaned as he looked at his food, before his sister, who was sitting next to him, kicked him in the leg.
Ow. Don't be rude. People worked hard to make this.
Nara aggressively whispered to him while giving him a fierce glare.
And they're good for you. They don't taste like it, Ken grimaced.
Kiba didn't complain, she just made a very sour face as she scarfed down her food as fast as possible to get it over with.
She may not like it, but she didn't want to be a bother. Hey, where's Kyoku? Kei asked. She went to go eat with your father, dear. Inko smiled. She said she didn't want him to be alone. Kei gasped. That's a great idea. Mr. Sato, can we take our food and eat with Daddy? You don't have to ask me. I just make the food, you can eat wherever you want, Sato told them.
With an eager grin, Kei lifted her bowl and ran out to go to Izuku, with Eri deciding to follow her.
Fu looked at Kiba, who looked like she wanted to join them but didn't. Kiba, what the heck is going on with you? Fu thought. XXXXXXXXXXX. Hey, Dad. Achiko was currently in Izuku's office, looking over some reports. Oh hey honey, what's going on? her father asked, slightly concerned. I've called you at least a dozen times, but you ain't been answering? You haven't heard? Achiko cringed. Izuku collapsed. What? Achiko had to move away from the phone. It's okay. She quickly reassured him. He's not gonna die or anything, but he's just really weak right now. She heard her father breathe a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. What on earth brought that boy down? Overwork, Achiko answered. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Her father said. That boy has a heart of gold, but the human body can only take so much charity. And Lord knows the world doesn't make being kind an easy thing to do. And he never knows when to stop. Achiko sighed soundly, slightly agitated. And how do you feel about that? Her father asked. I feel frustrated. Achiko vented. Pretty much everyone he met treated him like crap. And then it finally seems like he gets to have the life he deserves, and he just sabotages himself. And I'm just so angry. He's such a wonderful person and he cares for everyone. Everyone but himself. He thinks of the people that bully him more than himself. And that's just, Achiko's head slammed into the desk as she took a moment to just let her frustration seep out. So he's that type, huh? Her father said. Listen, Izuku Midoriya has what they called a bleeding heart. It pours and pours for everyone else, but eventually, he'll be left with nothing for himself. Listen, honey, you can't leave people like him alone for too long. They'll end up killing themselves one way or another eventually. Don't say that! Achiko shouted. That thought sent shivers down her spine. The thought that Izuku cared for himself so little that no matter what happened, if you left him alone for too long. It's the truth, dear. A man who holds no love for himself can't stand on his own. Achiko's father said. He needs people to teach him how to care for himself, dear. And I know those kids love him a whole bunch, but a lot of them need just as much help as he does. And I don't even know where his parents are. His mom's here, Achiko told him. But she can only be here for so long. She has a company to deal with overseas. You know, financial security is important. Sure do. Her father said. But that leaves Midoriya with no one who can stop him from running himself into the ground. No one but you. Dad, you know I have to focus on my studies. Achiko reminded him gloomily. I'm not saying monitor his every move, I'm just saying you should pop by every now and again. He's not the kind of guy to ask for help, so you may have to force it down his throat a bit. Her father explained. Just remind him that he'd better look after himself, otherwise you'll kick down his door and whoop his ass. Achiko giggled a bit. I thought you'd want me to stay away from boys. Her father laughed with her. In most cases, yeah. But remember what you said about financial security. Well, ours kinda goes down the drain if he dies, so it's for everyone's sake that you make sure he's still kicking. Also, I won't lie. Boy made a good first impression. Determined, hardworking, heart of gold. And he's rich. Honey, if you wanna lock that down, I won't get in the way. Daddy! It's not like that. Achiko's face turned bright red. He's just a friend. I'm just saying, sweetheart, there are a lot worse picks. Her father said. Yeah, I know. Achiko said. But enough about that. Me and my classmates are kinda trying to help him out while he's recovering, so we also have to take care of the house maintenance. Sanson just melted some of the stairs, so do you think could repair those and help out with the paperwork? Of course, darling. We'll get right on it. Her father said. All right. See you soon. Bye. Achiko hung up. The brunette looked up and saw Momo standing in the doorway, staring at her with paper in her arms and a slight smile on her face. Oh, Momo. I didn't see you there.
Achiko blushed a bit at not noticing her classmate standing there for presumably a little while.
How long were you standing there?
Near the beginning of the phone call. I apologize for eavesdropping, but your phone call was not something I'd experienced before,
Momo told her. You haven't had a phone call with your dad?
Achiko raised her eyebrow, giving her a confused look.
No, I have. Plenty of them, Momo told her. But it's not like yours, Uraraka. Can I tell you something?
Of course.
Never be afraid to speak your mind, Vice Rep. Achiko gave her a kind reassuring smile.
We're friends after all. Momo returned her smile with the same warmth, albeit a bit shakier. I'm not used to this level of casualness. I was raised in a very proper home and in very proper schools. It wasn't terrible or even all that bad necessarily, it was just very slightly uncomfortable, in a way I never noticed up until now.
This casual feeling, it's relaxing.
That's why I was caught up in your conversation with your father.
It was so different from my own. Oh, well, it's fine then.
Achiko excused her.
Just try not to lurk next time.
I'll keep that in mind, Momo said.
Also, if you have free time, do you think you could help me with these papers?
Sure, Achiko told her. That's what friends are for.
XXXXXXXXX. Alright, everyone. And that's it for today's biology lesson,
Mina said, standing in the front of the classroom, to all the children sitting in the chairs.
Does anyone have any questions? Sue asked.
Kay raised her hand.
Yeah, Kay? Mina called on her.
You said boobies are there so women can give milk to their babies,
right? Kay asked.
That's right, Kay,
I'm so glad you understand.
Mina petted her snakes proudly.
But why are they all different sizes?
Kay asked curiously.
Miss Momo has really big boobies, and Miss Jiro has almost no boobies.
Mina tried her hardest not to laugh, as in was failing horribly, while Sue just rolled her eyes.
That's a part of genetics, Sue explained. We were going to go into that tomorrow, but I guess we can give you a preview of it now. Sue then went up to the chalkboard and spent a few minutes drawing an image.
On the left side of the board was a woman, and on the right was a man. Both had arrows next to them that pointed to a wheel. Genetics are a big part of what makes you, Sue explained.
Genetics come from your mother and your father, your birth parents, that is. Not Izuku.
And when you're being created inside of your mother's bellies, those genetics are randomly shuffled around until they finish creating you. Your hair color, your height, weight, skin color, breast size, eye color, your quirk, and some parts of your personality are all chosen by genetics. Think of it like a big wheel, and when you spin it, it randomly decides what traits you get. And the genetics you get from your mother and father decide what's on that wheel.
So people get lucky, and some people don't, Mina told them. Momo hit the genetic jackpot.
Jiro did too, in every place except for her breast size. But don't tell her I said that. She's really sensitive about her itty bitties.
Mina, Sue said while looking at the open doorway. The door.
Ha! Mina looked behind her at the doorway and froze, because she saw Jiro standing there, giving her a very menacing look, with her earlobes raised.
Hey Jiro. Mina started sweating nervously, trying to back up, only to stumble into a desk. Why, you were just hanging around? Jiro didn't say a word, she just slowly started advancing. Hey Jiro. I was just answering a question, it's not my fault. Mina tried to defend herself.
Itty bitties, Jiro repeated with venom gushing from her tone.
Mina gulped as the rocker approached her. Kids, save me.
Some of the kids got up to come to her aid, but Sue raised her hand to stop them.
Kids, don't. This is a lesson about watching what you say, and the consequences if you don't.
Sue, you traitor!
Mina shouted as Jiro descended upon her.
It was just a joke.
It was just a joke. Ah. And thus it was quickly decided the next lesson would be on how to deal with stab wounds. XXXXXXXXXX. You're doing it, Eri, you're doing it. Achiko chanted, as she watched Eri try to turn off her quirk. Eri breathed in and out rapidly, struggling as she tried to control the wild bull that was her quirk. Ag. Ma. Her horn kept shrinking back into her head. It would sometimes move a centimeter back up, as it resisted Eri's will to try and keep on going, but Eri was more determined than ever. After a few minutes, the strange energy her horn emitted ceased, and a few seconds later, Eri finally managed to get her horn back to its default position. Once this was done, Eri flopped back onto the floor, breathing heavily. Good job, Eri. Achiko applauded her. This is the third time you turned your quirk on and off today. Izuku said you normally can only do it once on a good day. Thank you, Achiko, Eri said between breaths, as she struggled to keep her eyes open. I need to work really hard to control my quirk and help people. Ah. Achiko cooed as she picked up Eri and started petting her head, exactly as Izuku instructed. You're such a nice girl, Eri. But it's time for you to rest. You look really tired. Eri pouted and shook her head, and forced herself to sit up. No. I need to control it. Don't overdo it, Eri. It's gonna be a long time until you can fully control your quirk. Achiko told her, picking her up to put her in bed. Eri weakly struggled in Achiko's arm. No. I need to control it. Achiko frowned. Eri, what's going on? Why are you being so stubborn? The horned girl pouted. If I could use my quirk, I could fix Dad. And he'd never have to be like that ever again. Oh. Achiko felt like an idiot. Of course, that's what would be the problem. It was so obvious. It must have been so frustrating to have the power to fix a problem so important to you, and just not have been able to use it. At the very least, she didn't try to fix Izuku in her current state. That likely would have gone very poorly. But now Achiko needed to get this girl to sleep before she made herself sick from exhaustion. And she knew she would need to get some help. XXXXXXXXXX. Izuku was currently working on papers, in his bed with his two grim apes next to him, when the door opened. What on earth are you doing? Izuku sighed, as he saw Achiko enter the room, with Eri in her arms. Hello, Achiko. You too, Eri. Both Eri and Achiko wore pouts on her face, Eri because she still wanted to continue training, and Achiko because Izuku was working on his break. I am dealing with some papers involving the QRD, Izuku explained. We can talk about that after we talk about why my little unicorn is pouting. Achiko looked hesitant to let this go for now, but ultimately relented. She moved towards the bed, plopping Eri right next to Izuku, and standing next to her to make sure she didn't try to just roll off and escape. She has been working very hard on controlling her quirk. She managed to turn it on and off 3 whole times. Izuku gave a forced gasp, although he was a bit surprised. He over-exaggerated it for Eri's sake. 3 whole times. That's amazing, Eri. Eri found herself cuddling into Izuku's side against her will, her own body betraying her. But, the problem is she's very tired, but wants to keep going so she can master her quirk faster. Achiko shook her head. Because she wants to heal you the next time you get sick. She's overworking herself, like father like daughter. Oh, Eri. Izuku gave her a gentle smile and brought her into his embrace. Rest is important. Trust me, I tried to keep working and ignoring my body, and I ended up like this. You can't do that, Eri, that's a no-no. But I want to fix you, Eri muttered. I know. You're such a good girl. Such a kind, pure-hearted girl. Izuku told her. But you need to know your limits. I can keep going, Eri whispered a yawn following soon after. Oh really? Izuku gave her a slightly mischievous smile. Well, if you can stay awake for a whole 2 minutes, then you can keep training. Deal? Deal.
Eri's eyes flew open, however, she quickly found she had to fight to keep them that way.
You really think you can do it? Izuku asked, getting a nod from her. Even if I hold you real close?
Izuku brought the girl up to his chest, holding her right against his chest.
And not fair.
Eri's eyes were half closed, as she absorbed the warmth of Izuku's touch. It was so soothing that she quickly found that even fighting at her hardest wouldn't be enough.
What about if I pet your head, like this? Izuku brushed his hand through her hair.
Eri didn't even have the time to protest, as she quickly closed her eyes, and fell into a deep sleep. Izuku and Achiko looked at Eri's adorable sleeping form, before Achiko looked up, back at the paperwork Izuku was doing, and frowned again.
The green-haired teen looked up at her and sighed. Look, I know what you're gonna say dash. Then why are you doing it?
Achiko whispered aggressively.
You know you shouldn't be working right now. This is QRD work. This is important work that contains classified information.
Izuku's tone was dead serious and told Achiko that he wasn't ashamed in the slightest of what he was doing. I can't hand this over to a bunch of people I just met. And while I trust you and Mom, neither of you know enough about this for you to make decisions this important. Not to mention I would have to send in an advance notice saying that you have permission to make this decision in the first place, and that would take far too much time.
Well, can't you just put it on hold until you recover? Achiko asked him. How would you feel if you had to stay 3 more weeks in a bunker, unable to see the outside or even your family because the person responsible for releasing you was being an idiot? Izuku told her. It's important work. And I can't put it to the side unless I absolutely have to. Achiko didn't look convinced. Izuku sighed. Okay, it's the only real work I'm doing. And it's reduced. I'm only really doing this for an hour a day.
Uraraka continued to give him a look, judging his words for a minute before relaxing and giving a long sigh.
Well, don't overdo it. I'll be watching you now. So don't think you can get away with overdoing it. I won't. Izuku looked down at Eri, sleeping at his side.
I'll try my best, for her.
For all of them. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was late at night, and most of Class 1A was asleep.
All except for Shoto, who had done the least that day, and as such was assigned to finish up some of the leftover paperwork that night.
This is extremely tedious.
Todoroki had never felt so bored in his life. His father had always been particularly upset after he did the stack of paperwork he had to do as a high-ranking hero, and for once Shoto understood something about his father.
Knock. Knock. Shoto looked up, wondering who could be knocking at this time of night. Come in. The door opened, and in came Kiba. Hi. Hello. What are you doing up? Shoto asked her. I wanted to ask you something. How much work is it to clean up the house when we break something? A lot, Shoto answered bluntly. It takes about half an hour to deal with even the smallest of things. It's ridiculous. How long does it take for the bigger stuff or multiple things? Kiba almost looked like she was afraid of the answer. I'd imagine hours. Not including the phone calls. Shoto told her. It's a lot of work. Shoto guessed the girl must have broken a lot of things because she looked extremely guilty. Like, he'd never seen a child look this guilt-ridden before, not that he's seen a lot of children, mind you. After taking a few minutes to compose herself, Kiba looked back up at him and asked, "See, can I see how much stuff got broken before Daddy got sick?" Shoto gave that some thought. She was probably just being thoughtful and wanted to see how much damage she caused. Maybe this would help her be more mindful in the future. Sure. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? Chapter 58, Sinking into Darkness.
So what you're telling me is that Kiba, who was already feeling guilty about the amount of property damage she might have caused since she's been here, asked you to show her physical proof of this, and you just let her, Izuku asked, clutching his head as headaches assaulted him. Well, to be fair, I didn't think she'd caused that much property damage, Shoto said, defending himself. I thought it would motivate her to be more careful. I didn't think it'd cause her to react like that. Even though he said that Shoto could see now that he'd made a mistake. He figured that out when, while they were looking through the papers, Kiba burst into tears and ran out of the room. I'm so sorry for this, Midoriya. Momo and Ida were present alongside her classmate. I was aware that Todoroki was emotionally distant, but I didn't know he was this out of touch. Ida gave an apologetic bow on behalf of his classmate. We apologize on behalf of Class 1A. We sincerely apologize for causing this. Momo also bowed. Izuku took a deep breath, trying to rein in his headache. Okay, take me to her. XXXXXXXXX. Izuku was in a wheelchair, being wheeled by Ida towards Kiba's room. Outside of Kiba's room were Fu, Nara, Ken, Netsu, Shiroku, Eri, and Kei. Daddy! Kei immediately ran over to Izuku and looked at him worryingly. Daddy, Kiba is acting weird. Yes, I heard. Izuku nodded. I'm going to see her now. Izuku looked at Ida. I'll wheel myself now. Are you sure that's wise? Ida asked him. Izuku nodded. I'll be fine. Please I think I'll need to talk to her alone. Ida looked hesitant, but ultimately understood, and backed off. With that, Izuku wheeled himself towards Kiba's door, looking at the concerned looks on his kids' faces. As he approached the door, he took a deep breath, readying himself for what he might see on the other side. He pushed the door open, and what he saw was odd. Kiba was just sitting on her bed, watching television. Hey Kiba, Izuku said, as he wheeled himself in and closed the door behind him. Kiba looked over to him and winced with guilt. And it hurt Izuku so much to see her do that. Hi Daddy. After she greeted him, Kiba almost immediately looked away. Izuku frowned and wheeled himself closer to her. I know you looked at the files. Why didn't you tell me? Kiba asked in a sad, low voice. I destroyed so much stuff. I didn't know, I hurt you. No, sweetheart, you Izuku tried to explain, but she interrupted him. Don't lie to me. Kiba suddenly shouted, looking tearfully at Izuku. You told us you were okay. But you weren't. You didn't tell me I was giving you so much work, and hurting you. And now you're like this, and it's my fault. Izuku was at a loss for words. He wanted to just say that it wasn't true, but clearly he had overused simple hand-wavy explanations like that. Meaning his only real option here was to be a bit truthful. Okay, I can't hide it from you anymore. You did give me a lot of work, with all the things you broke. But that's part of why you're here. Why you're all here. Your quirks are very powerful and destructive, that's not any of your faults. Kai gives me a lot of work to do just by living here. Netsu constantly makes small burns everywhere and sets things on fire occasionally. Fukanoko's room needs to be constantly inspected and maintained to make sure there are no leaks. And all the work that goes into feeding you all is far more exhausting than you could ever be. But all that stuff can't be helped. Kai can't stop being big. Netsu can't stop being on fire. Fuku can't stop her gas. And we can't stop eating, but I can stop destroying things, Kiba argued. I just need to stay in here and be very careful. You can't just stay in here all the time, Kiba, Izuku told her. Are just not supposed to live your life because of Dash. You gave me my life. Kiba argued, causing Izuku to pause. I was never the queen of eternal darkness. When you found me, I had nothing. I was a pathetic little girl, dying on the ground. And before that, I was a thief that hurt people just to stay alive. But you took me, and you gave us a home, food, and a family. I live in a super big house, getting everything I want, getting to order around super cool monsters, and play pretend with my brothers and sisters. All thanks to you. And I hurt you. Kiba started crying now, still refusing to look at Izuku. You gave me everything I could ever want, and all I did was make your life harder, and ask for more. Izuku tried to find the words to reassure her, but he was a bit too busy fighting back the massive feeling of guilt. He did this. If he had just hired some help, this would never have happened. I can't hurt from in here. So I'm staying in here. Kiba said, sniffling as tears still rolled down her cheeks. And I won't ask for anything. Kiba, Now Izuku was crying as well. Kiba, you can't stay in here. Kiba stopped responding entirely. Just sitting there with her back turned to Izuku. Kiba, look at me. Izuku tried to get to her, but she just wouldn't respond. After a few moments of silence, Izuku just wheeled himself over to her, leaned in, and wrapped his arms around her, bringing her into a gentle hug. I'll give you some time for now, but I want you to know, you were never a burden to me, and I never thought for a moment that my life would be better without you. I can say safely that if I never met all of you, my life would be so much darker. Kiba flinched after hearing that but still didn't respond. After a minute, Izuku separated from her, and slowly wheeled himself out of the room. He took one last look at Kiba, hoping to see her looking back, but to his dismay, she was still turned away from him. With a sigh, he left her room. Hoping that this would heal a bit with time. XXXXXXXXXX. The next day had arrived, and things didn't seem to improve. All of yesterday, Kiba had kept true to her word. Never leaving her room except to eat, and that's it. When people came to talk to her, she would speak normally, not normal for her, but rather how you would expect a normal person to speak. She had completely dropped her Queen of Eternal Darkness thing, and now she was just Kiba Midoriya, little girl. And now halfway through day 2 of this behavior, people were getting concerned that this may not blow over. So that is what led Fu to where he was, standing outside her door, ready to go inside. A few others before him had attempted to cheer her up. Talk her into going back outside, sparring, or making a video. But nothing seemed to work. No one could do it. Not Eri, Kei, Netsu, Nara. None of them. And so as the one who's known her the longest, Fu decided he had to give it a shot. He went in, and saw her, on her bed watching TV when she turned and saw Fu enter the room. Oh, hi Fu. Hey. Fu greeted her with a wave. I've never seen her subdued like this. It's not like Kiba had never dropped her act before. She had from time to time, but never for very long, and never like this. She was almost like a different person. So, do you really staying in here is better for Dad? Fu asked her. Kiba turned away and nodded. I can't make any more work for him here. Yeah, but you are making him and everyone else worry about you a ton. Fu pointed out. You know Dad blames himself for everything that goes wrong, so doing this only makes him feel worse. That bit of logic hit Kiba, making her wince and her face scrunch up in guilt, as she thought about what Fu said. But, he'll get over it. If I keep making him work, he might get even sicker next time. And then, he might die. You know he has help this time, right? Fu asked her. He has Achiko's class right now, and he's gonna hire help after they leave. That's not gonna happen again. But what if Daddy just does all the work himself anyway? Kiba argued irrationally. Why on earth would he hire employees just so he could do all the work himself? Fu asked her. Actually, that sounds exactly like something he would do, but hopefully, that doesn't happen. Why would he let us work him to near death? Kiba countered. Daddy's too nice. Okay, I see what's going on. Fu thought. Kiba was always stubborn. If she got a thought in her head, it was rather difficult to get it out. Especially when she is scared. Because that's what this was. Kiba was just scared that she was the one who hurt Izuku, and was now overreacting. And now she was determined to stick to her guns and stay in here because she was too scared of the alternative. Look, I get you're scared, Fu called her out. But dash. I'm not scared. Kiba refuted. I'm being mindful. For once. All I do out there is cause problems. Why do you think Daddy scolds me the most? Like that time I argued with you guys about colors. And that time I threw a car at All Might. All those times I broke things. That time I hurt myself in the greenhouse. All those times I spread your insides across the house. I'm always doing something wrong. Oh, she really remembered all that. Fu thought, slightly surprised that Kiba bothered to think of those moments. Perhaps she was a bit more aware than he had given her credit for. Look, I get that you feel dash. How can you get how I feel? Kiba glared at him. You can barely feel at all. And you are one of Daddy's favorites. He always trusts you and praises you, and you and Yami are always helping him. And you can use your quirk without destroying anything or breaking anything. How could you know how I feel? Okay. Clearly, this is worse than I thought. Fu looked for a way to reach her. So you're just gonna stay in here for the rest of your life? What about Kiba, Queen of Eternal Darkness? How are you gonna be a hero if you don't train? We both knew that was fake, Kiba said bitterly, and Fu detected a bit of hurt in her voice. I just called myself that to make myself feel better about the fact that I was cursed with a quirk that meant to hurt people, and my parents kicked me out because all I do is hurt the people who are supposed to take care of me. If Daddy weren't so nice, then he would have thrown me out already. Well, what about your channel? And your fans? Fu pulled out his last card. You said you weren't gonna ask for anything, so are you not gonna ask for anything to do your streaming? I'm just gonna stop streaming, Kiba said in a very, very low voice. As if she was still unsure of herself. I do a lot of stupid things while streaming. I hurt myself, I break things. I'll stop for Daddy's sake. That actually caused Fu's eyes to widen for a second. As he was really, really surprised by this. Kiba adored streaming. She did it pretty much every day. And it was clear to see how much fun she had while doing it. To give up something she loved so much, but she clearly looked unsure of this. She was saying this, but he wasn't sure if she meant it. But if it was affecting her deeply enough for her to say that, then she was beyond reaching, at least to just him. Besides, the Queen of Eternal Darkness is gone, Kiba said sadly. Well then I'll leave you to it, Fu told her. But I know, that Dad will never really be happy, if you're not. So while you're sitting in here, ask yourself, are you happy? Kiba paused, before turning away, and muttering. I'm fine. Leaving Kiba with that thought, Fu left the room. Coming up with a plan. XXXXXXXXX. Kiba looked out the window at the starry sky in the night. A part of her wanted so badly to go out and do anything. She wanted to feel the night's cool air on her skin, see the moon shining brightly in the sky, and just run around and enjoy herself. But she couldn't, she reminded herself. Because what would happen if she went out there, did some stretches, and broke 20 trees or something? Izuku would have to do a lot of work to replace each and every one of those trees. Or maybe she'd throw a rock through the house and make holes in 15 walls. Which Izuku would also have to fix. Oh, actually Achiko's classmates would fix those. Maybe she'd bring them to collapse too. Izuku didn't mind if he got hurt. But if she hurts others? Maybe then Izuku would finally have enough and kick her back out onto the street like her parents did. That thought alone was enough to make her sit still and stay in her room and watch TV. Although, being honest, this had gotten pretty unenjoyable a while ago. After a few hours of just sitting in a room, she got this itch. To go outside her room. To run around, spar a bit, play some games. Not that she could do any of that. She could literally destroy a wall by pressing on it with a bit of effort. Creating hours of work for her father. But here, in her room specifically made for her, reinforced to make it harder to destroy, she was fine.
And Izuku would be fine. Even if she was bored and sad, and more than a little bit lonely, she'd get used to it. Fukunoko lived like this, so why couldn't she? I'll get used to it. Kiba thought, curling up into a ball on her bed.
Ignoring her urges to get up and do anything.
I have to. XXXXXXXXX.
In the cafeteria, a group of people calling themselves the Turn Kiba Back to Normal Squad had gathered. This group consisted of kids such as Eri, Kei, and Fu, as well as members of Class 1A such as Achiko, Mina, Toru, and Kirishima, and of course, Izuku himself.
And so that's how it was. Fu finished explaining what happened with Kiba. Damn that Todoroki, I'm going to melt him so hard. Mina cursed. Please don't. Izuku sighed. This was clearly a long time coming. Kiba has always been more problematic than the others. It's true I've had to scold her far more than any of the other children, and she caused far more property damage and destruction than all the children combined. And while I would have kept hiding that, Kiba isn't an idiot, and she is more observant than I gave her credit for. She would have come to this conclusion at some point, however my collapse just made things worse. If anyone should be blamed for this, then it's me. Achiko gave Izuku a conflicted look. On one hand, he should feel bad for letting this happen to himself, and the kids, by extension. On the other hand, he was being really hard on himself. So in the end she just put a comforting hand on his shoulder, not telling him that he was wrong, but providing some level of reassurance. I don't know if Kiba is gonna stay like this forever, but she is definitely determined to try. And that means this may last a while. But she's gonna hate that. Kiba hates standing still the most, actually Sanson hates it the most, but Kiba's a close second. Kei said. Yeah, and she's gonna suffer for however long she stays like this. Mina pointed out. We need to find some way to make her realize she has to leave her room, Eri asked. I think I can help. Everyone looked to the source of the voice and found that it was Fukunoko, standing there in her hoodie. Fuku, Izuku said with slight disbelief. He'd never seen her walk into and stay in a room with this many people, and she spoke up. I don't like this new Kiba. Fuku admitted. She reminds me too much of me. And I hate it. We need to get the old Kiba back immediately. Wow, Fuku. You really fired up. Kei smiled at her, her snakes giving a pleased hiss. Yeah, girl. Mina cheered on the normally shy child. So do you have a plan? Toru asked her. Well, yeah. Fuku looked the other way, not wanting to see all of them looking right at her. But it's gonna take some time. Chapter 59, Seeing the Light. Kiba was once again sitting in her room, watching TV. At this point, she wasn't even really watching, just staring blankly at the screen. Roar! Suddenly Kiba heard the familiar sound of Kai screaming roar and felt her room slightly shake a bit. Kiba saw something outside her window, from the corner of her eye, and she quickly ran over to look at it. Outside was a fantastic battle between Kai, Achiko, Junken, and Nara. Junken was in his stinkfly form, shooting gunk into Kai's eyes, while Nara froze his feet to the ground as Arlequina, and Achiko kept hitting him with a big tree that she had grabbed. But Kai was just powering through everything, thrashing about, trying to hit his opponents with his heads and feet. It didn't take long for her to remember her own battles with Kai, and imagine herself fighting alongside them. Or even better. Maybe she could be fighting alongside Kai against his attackers. Leading him in battle. Kiba shut her eyes and shook her head, trying, and failing, to get that thought out of her head. No. I'd probably fall and crash through the house. I might even hurt someone. As quickly as the battle came, it left. With Kai flying away, somewhere out of sight, with Ken picking up Achiko and Nara and flying after him. Once they were all gone, Kiba balled up her fist and held in a scream of frustration. She quickly ran over to her bed and screamed into her pillow. No matter how much she tried,
she couldn't quell the feeling of wanting to go outside and join them. It looked like so much more fun than staying stuck up in here. I should just forget about it, Kiba told herself, as she bruised herself in her bed. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Not too much longer, Kiba heard something else outside her window. Tada. She heard another voice outside her window. Out of curiosity, Kiba once again brought herself to the window and saw Shiruku, Eri, and Kei. Eri was dressed in an apple-red dress that was a bit fancier than anything she would normally wear, looking more like something that would fit Kiba's attire. She was clearly embarrassed about it, as even from up there Kiba could see that Eri's face was about as red as her dress. Kei seemed far more ecstatic, looking down at her white, almost toga-like dress, seeming like something fitting of her Medusa-like appearance, while also seeming fitting and pretty. They both possessed the kind of regalness that Kiba loved in her clothes. She couldn't hear much of what they were saying, but they did seem to be having fun, although Eri might have been struggling a bit, even if she looked absolutely precious. Kiba's cheeks puffed up as she pouted. Couldn't they do this somewhere else? Didn't they know how badly she wanted to jump down there and dress up with them? Laugh with them. Hug Eri because she is flipping adorable. But she could tear apart the dress, which she often did, and she might accidentally do to Eri what she did to Fu on a constant basis, except Eri would actually get hurt. Suddenly Mina came out and started talking to them. Hey girls, let's go. We can try on even more cool clothes. Shiruku and Kei cheered, and Eri nodded as they all ran away. Although, Eri lagged behind, before staring up at Kiba with sad, begging eyes, as if asking why Kiba wasn't down there with them. Kiba felt like she got stabbed with that look, so much so that she literally jumped back from her window and onto the floor. Agha! Kiba wailed as she rolled around on the floor. Not fair, not fair, not fair. It was all just so unfair. Why did she have to be born with such an uncontrollable quirk? Why couldn't she ever turn it off like Achiko could with her strength quirk? Why did she have to drink blood to use it? Kiba once again grabbed her pillow and screamed into it. Hopefully, she could just ignore the world for the rest of the day. XXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright. Let's get the meat-eating competition underway. Kiba heard the loud voice of Mina Ashido outside her window once again. Meat-weighting competition. Oh, come on. Kiba screamed, before shaking her head. No. Nope. I'm not gonna look. Our contestants are Yami, Jun Ken, and Kurishima, shouted Mina. And our food, cooked personally by our head chef Sato, are lots of gyukushi beef skewers, some beef tataki, yakiniku, loads of hamburg, and lastly, we have oodles of steak. All perfectly cooked and freshly made. Kiba screamed into her pillow once more, as it was all she could do to keep herself from drooling at the sounds of some of her favorite foods, as well as new foods she really wanted to try. She'd just have to ask if she could have some later, very politely, and only a little. Alright. Begin. Mina shouted. Somehow, those boys managed to eat loud enough that Kiba could hear it all. The way from her room. It would be impressive if it wasn't infuriating, as Kiba could hear just how much they enjoyed their food. It was hell. And it was hell that continued, for almost half an hour. Alright. And the winner is Jun Ken. Although he did use his quirk to turn into a giant orange dog, that wasn't against the rules, so he wins. Mina announced. Raf! Roared Jun Ken as Wild Mutt. Alright, with that done. Let's eat all of the leftover food and get out of here. Mina shouted. MMMMMMGGHHHHH. Kiba whined. Just ignore them, Kiba. Don't think about all that delicious food you're not eating. She'd just wait to be fed later at dinner time, in 4 hours. XXXXXXXXXXX. The forest was lighting up. Kiba had absolutely no idea what was going on. All she saw was that there was a very bright glow in the forest of many different colors, and she couldn't see what was causing it. And her curiosity was killing her. Kiba bit her lip, and pried herself away from the window, and back onto her bed, hoping that not looking at it would keep her from feeling tempted to explore what the heck was causing that. It did, barely. XXXXXXXXX. Boom! Kiba blinked in disbelief, as she heard something she couldn't believe. Kaboom! Fireworks. She could hear fireworks. Immediately Kiba once again returned to her window. And she did in fact see a firework, part of one. Boom! A firework went off, and Kiba could just barely see a small part of it. Kiba wanted to cry. In fact, she was actually tearing up from sadness and frustration. She hated being stuck in this stupid room. It was literal hell. How the hell did Fuku manage to live like this? She was very tempted to just say screw it, and go outside to see the fireworks. Surely she could hold back her strength long enough to look at the fireworks. You selfish girl! Shouted a voice in her mind that reminded her a bit too much like her mother for her comfort. Can't even stay in your room for a week, you leech. After everything he's done for you. That stopped any feeling of temptation she had, and replaced it with sadness, guilt, and anger. So Kiba just went away from her window, back onto her head, stuffed her face back into her pillow, and started crying. Wondering just how many times she would have to repeat this over the course of her new life. XXXXXXXXX. Kiba wanted to sleep so much. It was now past midnight, and no matter how much she tried, she couldn't get a lick of sleep. She was too busy thinking back to all the things she had missed today. A huge fight with Kai, showing off some cool dresses, a meat-eating competition, whatever the heck that thing in the forest was, all ending off with a fireworks display at night. That all sounded like it would have been a great day. A fantastic day. And yet, it had actually been one of her worst days ever since she came here. Would this be what her future had in store? It was on that dreadful thought that she finally fell into a dreamless sleep. XXXXXXXX. Kiba was woken up by someone shaking her. Go away. Kiba still felt absolutely miserable, and she did not feel like getting up and facing reality. Absolutely not. Said a familiar, but not too familiar voice. Wait, Kiba was shocked when she recognized the voice and had to open her eyes to confirm what she was hearing. Fukanoko? In front of her was Fuku, with her hoodie on, but the hood was down, and her face was revealed. That was the first most shocking thing about her situation. The second was that she was outside. In the woods. They were in a large clearing, next to a small lake, laying on the grass near the water. What the? How did I get out of here? Kiba panicked slightly once she realized she was out of her room. I took you here. Fuku shyly admitted, speaking just loud enough so Kiba could hear her. Huh? Why? Kiba was beyond confused. Sure, she knew people weren't exactly happy about her staying in her room, but Fuku of all people. Fuku did the exact same thing. And she was way too shy to do something like this. And yet, here they were. Was this a dream? Kiba pinched her cheek, confirming that she was in fact really here. I really can't believe you actually stayed inside the whole day. Fuku pouted at her. After everything we did to try and lure you out, I was sure you would leave. Wait. Kiba took in what Fuku just said with wide eyes. You all did that on purpose. Kiba's expression changed to that of pure fury. All the pain and misery she felt today was on purpose. Why? Kiba shouted, tears of rage leaking down her face. Why would you do that? Just to lure me out. You spend all your time in your room. But it's bad when I do it. Why won't you all just leave me alone? Why do you care?
Because I know how it feels. Fuku shouted back, much to Kiba's shock. Fuku was also crying, but instead of running away or apologizing, she returned Kiba's furious look, with a determination in her eyes that Kiba would have never expected. I know what it feels like to live that kind of life, and I hate it. I hate constantly being afraid to go outside and talk to people. I want to leave my room and have fun with my friends. Fuku took a moment to catch her breath after screaming out her thoughts, while Kiba was just taken back. She'd never imagined Fuku would be so suddenly open with her. The last time she saw her face she'd ran away. And now she had her face out in the open to her, and was yelling and expressing herself. What was even going on here? After catching her breath, Fuku continued speaking, a bit calmer this time. I've always been a big fan of your streams. At first, I just watched them because I wanted to know what was going on around the house. But, pretty soon I actually just started to like watching your videos because of, well, you. Why you were always so brash and unafraid. Always doing new things and trying new things. And even willing to get hurt and just brush it off. It felt like I was living through you. You always seemed so alive that it felt like I was living this amazing exciting life right alongside you. When Ari and Kay were busy, and I was stuck all alone in my room, I would watch your streams or your videos and I wouldn't feel alone. I am a huge fan of yours. Even if we haven't really met, or talked much, I know you. And I love you. That statement smacked Kiba in the face. She was used to heaping praise upon herself, or others playing along with her act, or even Izuku's unrelenting and unending love. But this was genuine, heartfelt praise. From someone other than Izuku. And I'm not the only one. Fuku fumbled a bit, as she pulled her phone out of her pocket. Take a look. Fuku held her phone up to Kiba's face. On it was a video from Kiba's channel, but it wasn't one that she made. Instead, Fu was shown, sitting very close to the camera, and the video was titled, We Need Your Help. Hi everyone, you may have noticed, but Kiba hasn't uploaded in a while, Fu said to the camera. Something bad happened. Dad collapsed from overwork. He's fine and he's recovering at home now, but you've probably seen how much property damage Kiba causes, and so Kiba started blaming herself for it. She thinks she's some sort of burden or parasite. None of us can reach her alone, so we need your help to show Kiba just how much we appreciate her. Leave a comment showing your application, and we'll put the best ones in a video to show Kiba. Please. If you're going to show your support, do it now. Otherwise, this may be the last video on this channel. The video stopped, and immediately Fuku went on to the next video. This one is titled, Appreciation for Kiba, and it started showing a slideshow of different comments. Kiba, as a father of 5 myself, I can say for certain that it was not your fault alone. The work that goes into raising children is a lot for any parent, let alone one raising that many children. And as a father myself, I can say for certain that it was worth it. Despite any difficulties he may have had with your wildness, I'm 100% sure that he was overjoyed at watching you having fun and living your life to the fullest. And as someone who just wants to watch children having fun and smiling while my own kids are leaving the nest, I beg you, please don't stop living your life. I don't think there is anyone else on this platform that makes videos anywhere near as lively as yours are. I'm going through a rough spot in my life right now, and having something cute and lively to comfort me is really helping me get through it. Thank you for everything you've done for me, and please don't stop being cute, Lady Kiba. How on earth can you be a parasite if you give us all so much joy? These videos actually encouraged me to adopt a kid. Her name is Seo, and she's 5, coming up on 6. And that was easily the best decision of my life. She's the light of my life now, and while it may seem a bit presumptuous, I think I'm pretty important in her life too. She loves your videos, and watching them together has become a part of our weekly routine. Thank you for everything you've done for us. And please don't stop smiling. I don't have many friends, so watching you all hanging out and having fun, it made me feel not so lonely anymore. Please keep on making videos. I beg you. My quirk gives my claw hands. I caused a lot of problems for my parents as a kid. I get ripping up the furniture and accidentally scratching them. One time I tried wrapping up my hands. When I showed my parents, they looked horrified and immediately scolded me. They said that they'd take all the pain in the world if it meant making sure I was happy, and that the scars they carried were proof of their love for me. I don't know Caretaker as a person all that well, but I do know that he does love you all. And no good parent would be happy if their child isn't. Please don't give up, Kiba. We love you, Kiba. The messages went on, all showing Kiba heartfelt appreciation and love. Kiba didn't even realize when she started crying, she just couldn't look away from the video. She couldn't look away from the overwhelming support she was getting, as her heart felt like it was going to burst. The comments eventually came to an end, as did the video. Fuku put her phone back and looked at the now crying Kiba. People want you to keep going. To be happy. Because you make them happy. Izuku too. Everyone at the house agreed to help because they were worried about you. Please don't do what Izuku did, and ignore everyone. Kiba hesitated a moment, sniffing as she spoke. But, what about Daddy? I don't want to cause trouble for him, but my quirk dash. Fuku went over and grabbed her shoulders. It's okay. People aren't mad at you, and you can improve. I know, it might be hard to believe that. Because, there's this little voice in your head that's scared and keeps giving you bad advice. But you need to ignore it. Because if you listen to that voice, you will be miserable and unhappy for the rest of your life. That way you felt today, like you were missing out on life. Like everything is happening just outside your door, or your window. That's how you'll feel for the rest of your life. I know how hard it can be, but I also know that it's so worth it, for everyone's sake. Kiba just looked at her for a few moments before her sobbing got even worse, as even more tears streamed down her eyes. Wait. Did I do this wrong? Fuku started to doubt herself. I'm off. Kiba wrapped her arms around her and hugged her tightly while sobbing into her hoodie. Hey! Kiba! I said no one was upset, and that's true, but please learn to restrain yourself a bit. Fuku groaned out quickly. It was a good thing that Kiba had not drunk much blood that day, otherwise, this would be painful. Kiba lightened up her hug but kept sobbing just as hard. Fuku hesitantly wrapped her arms around Kiba and comforted her. Eventually, Kiba stopped crying, and the two separated. Thanks. Kiba smiled at Fuku, causing Fuku to nervously smile back. I was being foolish. Thank you for helping me. It wasn't just me, everyone was willing to help, Fuku told her sheepishly. Kiba nodded. I better give them all an extravagant thank you when tomorrow. I'm just really shocked you do all this. It must have been hard. Fuku shyly smiled. Not as hard as you'd think. I'm normally so worried about what's going to happen to me, but this time, I was too worried about you to think about it. Kiba paused, and then gave Fuku a heartfelt, touched smile. What a wonderful sister you are, I am truly blessed. XXXXXXXXXX. Izuku couldn't sleep. He was so worried about Kiba. Even after all they'd done today, she still hadn't come out. And now everything rested on Fuku's shoulders. Because what could he do? He had used up his credibility, with all the lies he told about his own health. It's almost funny, because of his attempt to do everything himself, he now had to rely on others. However, before Izuku could get into the self-deprecating rabbit hole, there was a knock on his bedroom door. Daddy? Can I come in? Asked Kiba's voice on the other side of the door. Izuku's eyes widened in shock, but his brain quickly caught up and responded. Yes. Come in. Almost immediately after he said that, Kiba burst through the door and leaped onto his bed, before cuddling into his arm. I'm so dumb. Kiba groaned, hiding her face in his arm. Today sucked, and I did it all for nothing.
Izuku paused for a moment, before taking in what she said, and realizing what had happened. The teen dad smiled down at her and started petting the top of her head. "Good job, Fuku." "It wasn't for nothing," Izuku told her. "I'm glad you were thinking of others. You just overreacted." Kiba nodded and snuggled up closer to him. "I know, from now on, I'll train even harder to hold back my strength." "That's the spirit," Izuku told her. "I'm just glad my little queen of eternal darkness is back to normal." "Thanks, Daddy," Fuku said. "Aren't you going to call me caretaker again?" Izuku asked her. "I'll do it tomorrow," Kiba muttered. "I'm tired." XXXXXXXXXX. "Is it on?" Kiba said, as her audio came online, and she appeared on the screen. "We're on," Fu said from over at his computer. It was a bright and sunny day. Kiba was outside, standing in front of a wooden table, with a huge array of meat dishes in front of her, and Junken a few feet away, with the same table, and the same amount of meat dishes. And all the kids, along with Class 1A and Izuku, were behind the cameras, watching the whole thing. "Hello, my loyal minions. And rejoice," Kiba said, immediately getting into the swing of things. "You all showed your faith in me. And I would be a terrible queen to not reward such heartfelt loyalty. I have not made one of these messages in quite some time. This of course needs to be immediately corrected. Which is what we're here to do today. For you see, yesterday there was a meat-eating contest, which my rival Ken won. Naturally." Ken puffed out his chest arrogantly, with a huge smirk on his face. "But I was under a truly wicked spell, that caused me to forget who I truly was and fall into despair," Kiba said dramatically. "Fortunately, it was thanks to all of you, as well as my siblings, and the wonderful Fukunoko dash." The cameras pointed up at Fukunoko's window, and Fuku briefly gave a thumbs up, before retreating back into her room. "I have regained my sense of self," Kiba shouted. "And as such, I cannot allow the results of that contest to go uncontested. So, without further ado Ken brought up his watch and slammed down on it, and in a green flash, he transformed into Wildmutt. Let us begin. Chapter 60, Gotcha. Now, Mineta knew he wasn't the best of influence. After all, if you asked anyone, himself included, how to describe him in one word, literally everyone would say, pervert. So being stuck in a building full of kids, not the best situation to be in. Because now, if he perved out in front of the kids, they would actually kill him. Not to mention he wouldn't get paid. Fortunately, he was held up in the office for the most part. Behind a desk, away from kids and away from the girls. Unfortunately, it was extremely boring work. Ugh! How did Midoriya do so much paperwork? Mineta threw his pen onto the desk, bringing his hands to his head so he could use his head balls as stress balls. After a few moments, Mineta calmed himself, and looked around, seeing if anyone was watching him at the time. Once he confirmed that he was alone, he quickly took out his phone. He'd been working for a few hours, he deserved a bit of a break. At least long enough for him to catch up with his gotchas. Ah, gotcha games. Such bastions of fanservice and luart. All incorporated into a game with gameplay no one really cared about as they spent their life savings away to simp for someone that wasn't real and was specifically designed to suck your hard-earned cash right out of your wallet. So of course these were Mineta's favorite type of game. Now Mineta didn't spend too much cash on these games, but if he had the funds to spend a ridiculous amount of money on these games, he would. Without question. As Mineta opened one of the games, he suddenly heard a voice from his right. What are you playing? Mineta screamed, jumped in his seat, his head turned to see Netsa standing next to him, looking up at his phone. When did you get here? Not too long ago? Netsa shrugged. You were on your phone and didn't notice me. Whatcha playing? It's a gotcha game. Mineta had to focus very hard. And make sure he didn't slip and say anything that would cause the girls and Izuku to murder him.
A gacha game? Netsu asked, looking at the phone.
Yeah, it's a video game you can play on a phone or tablet, where you can pull characters and use them to play, I guess, Mineta answered. There are some where you can pull your favorite characters from your favorite anime or manga.
Like Dragon Ball, One Piece, Pokemon, Flame Insignia.
There are even some for characters from Marvel. And there's one game where you can pull real-life heroes called Strongest Heroes.
And sometimes they have cool outfits. That sounds neat. Netsu looked excited. Can I try one?
I mean, they're all technically free, so if you have a phone, sure, why not? Mineta hoped that this would get this kid away from him.
What's the worst that could happen? XXXXXXXX.
Something is off, Izuku said as he laid in his bed and looked at his phone.
What's up? Achiko asked as she was doing some cleaning around Izuku's room. The kid's phone usage. It's skyrocketing. Izuku said, looking at the kid's phone usage on his own phone.
Izuku had gotten almost all of the kids' phones, for self-explanatory reasons.
However, many of them didn't use them all that often. This was for a multitude of reasons. Mostly because most of the kids preferred to go outside rather than play with a phone. But also because they didn't really leave the house, so they always had access to a computer or TV, which was almost always better to use than a phone. But right now, it seemed like the kids had been on their phones for most of the day. And it was pretty much all the kids. The only ones who had kept their normal phone usage were Kota, Otoko, Mu, Nara, and Yami. Kai technically also kept his normal phone usage, but he didn't have a phone, so that didn't really count. That's weird. These kids normally like to go outside more. Achiko pointed out, with a frown. I know.
Which is good, because playing outside with friends is much healthier than being on your phone constantly.
Izuku said, slightly worried at these strange results. I wonder why dash. And then suddenly, he got his answer in the form of a payment request notification.
Shiruku is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Genshin Impact.
Oh no.
Izuku's eyes widened as he started to see where this was going. And the continued notifications on his phone confirmed his suspicion.
Netsu was requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Dokkan Battle. Kiba is requesting a 13,000 yen purchase on Dragalia Lost. Kei is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Sanson is requesting a 10,000 yen purchase on One Piece Bounty Rush. Eri is requesting a 1,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Yanda is requesting 5,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Kyoku is requesting a 8,000 yen purchase on Pokemon Masters X. Fu is requesting a 1,000 yen purchase on Dragalia Lost. Izuku then quickly looked at the records on the kid's phone and looked at their recently downloaded apps. Achiko, get everyone here. Immediately. XXXXXXXX. After a few minutes, Achiko, along with Ida, Momo, and Inko had gathered all the kids but Nara, Yami, Otoko, Mu, Kai, and Kota, who were all now standing in his room. Fukanoko was even there, albeit hidden behind her hoodie, and standing behind Kei. Eri and Fu already seemed to know what this was about and looked slightly ashamed. So, I've noticed from your phone usage and the payment request that you all got addicted to gacha games, Izuku said, looking from his bed down upon all the children. We're not addicted. Kiba protested. Kiba, you downloaded 8 gachas and requested a total of 85,000 yen to spend on these games. Izuku deadpanned. Kiba cringed a bit, before looking away. Okay, maybe I asked for a bit much. And you're not the only one. Shiruku, you downloaded 10 games. And requested 95,000 yen to spend on them. Izuku continued rattling off the data. And Fu, you downloaded 12. Although you did only request 9,000 yen. Fu couldn't look Izuku in the eye. Me and Kyoshi, I really like the feeling when we get what we want in the games. I know it's a problem, but I can't stop. I'm sorry, Daddy, but they all just look so pretty. Shiruku apologized. You're not wrong, Fuku admitted bashfully.
It's not that big of a problem, Ken said.
We're rich, right?
Yes, we have an abundance of money.
Izuku sighed.
But running this place also takes a large amount of money, so if there is an emergency, it's better we use the money on that, than wasting it on games like these.
Trust me, I play Strongest Heroes. It was problematic.
He spent far too much money on that game.
I almost had to get a second job just to keep us afloat. Inko sighed as she recalled Izuku's gotcha period.
You can end up spending your entire life savings on these games, and wasting all of your time on them, Izuku told the kids, as he purposely ignored addressing what his mother just said. Which is why we're gonna establish some rules.
Ah. Ken and Netsu groaned, knowing they likely wouldn't like this.
Firstly, you can only spend 4 hours a day on these games, Izuku told them. And remember, I see your phone usage, I will know if you go over that amount. Secondly, if you're going to spend money on these games, you can only spend your own money.
Meaning that, now, you're all going to have to earn an allowance.
Ha! The kids looked at him with a mix of shock and confusion.
An allowance.
You'll still be able to ask for things, and I'll spend my own money on those. But if you want to ask for things like candy, or money to spend on gacha games, you'll have to earn that money yourself.
Izuku explained.
I'll leave the ways you can do this, up to your imagination. However, Shiruku, Fu, you both will already be getting an allowance, seeing as you both contribute to the house's income with your quirks.
What? How is that fair?
Ken objected.
It's not, Izuku said.
But this is to help prepare you for life. And as most of you are aware, life isn't fair. Especially when it comes to quirks. Shiruku and Fu both were born with abilities that allow them to naturally contribute to the house's income.
Is it fair to just use them to make money and not give them a portion of that money? No. So they get money from that. The rest of you will have to find a way to earn money like you would in real life.
And fantastic strategy. If they earn their own money, they will have a greater appreciation of it.
Ida nodded in approval.
Not only that, but much like in real life, you'll need to learn how to budget.
Meaning you'll only be allowed to spend a certain amount of your allowance on these games. Izuku told them.
What? Shouted a few kids, who looked very upset at this revelation.
I don't want you going into the real world, and thinking you can spend your entire paycheck on things like this, Izuku told them.
You'll have to learn how to balance how much you can spend on games, and how much you'll have to spend on other, more important things.
So you can only spend a certain % of your allowance.
Every week you'll come to me, and you'll tell me how much money you have. Then we'll do the math together, and I'll tell you how much you can spend on these games, and the rest you'll have to save unless you want to spend it on other things.
Ah woo.
Many of the kids looked disappointed at this news, some of them more than others. Look at this way, the more you save, the more money you'll have next week, meaning you'll get to spend more than last week, Izuku told them. And this will also teach you to only spend on the banners that you really want something from. It may seem restrictive, but trust me, it'll save you a lot of struggling later on in your lives.
So how are we supposed to earn money? We're not old enough to get jobs. Ken asked in a frustrated tone.
Well, let's talk about that, Izuku said.
XXXXXXXXX. Hello, my wonderful viewers. And as you may have noticed, I have created a second channel.
Kiba was currently streaming in her bedroom, getting ready to play Black Essence 2, as she addresses her audience.
Ooh, what's this? A second channel? But why?
Lady Kiba, please tell us why. Wait a minute, is there super chat here? I know many of you are wondering for what purpose does this secondary channel exist, and the reason is quite simple.
Kiba said haughtily.
You see, my loyal minions, I have recently discovered the existence of gacha games.
Oh no. Lady Kiba, don't. It's a trap.
Oh, that's why there's a super chat. However, despite these games being free, they are absolutely not free. And the in-game resources they give you in-game are simply not enough. As such, I need to pour money into these games to get what I want.
Kiba explained. Aren't you rich? Don't you guys have lots of money?
Yes, we have lots of money, however, Caretaker wants us to earn money for things like this, as such I need all of your assistance.
Kiba continued.
Not just for myself, but I also need to support my siblings. Fu and Shiruku especially, as they are now charging me for their services because of their crippling gambling addictions.
Really? Fu has a gacha addiction.
Fu?
Emotionless. Blank stare, Fu?
Yes, he plays far too many of them for his own good.
Kiba shook her head in disapproval. I'm not proud of it. But I can't stop. Fu admitted. It's okay, Fu. I have that problem too. Same. 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 Now as for why this is on a separate channel. It's because when I make videos instead of streams, I can actually get ad revenue. Kiba explained. Because my previous channel is demonetized due to all the blood and gore. As such, this channel will only contain non-bloody things. Like games. Suddenly, Kiba got a notification. Oh.
The first super chat donation.
5,000 yen. Thank you very much. And you said Fu thought of this idea, didn't he? How did you know? Man, Fu really wants that money.
Are they insinuating that Lady Kiba couldn't have come up with this on her own?
Queen Crimson, aw. Not blood. Oh well, Kiba's cute enough to stay around.
Well, regardless. On top of that, we also have where you can support us. But of course, you will be rewarded for your donations.
You may even get the chance to suggest something we may do in a video. Kiba suggested.
As well as various other rewards.
We also plan on releasing merchandise. Wow, they really want their gacha money. Buying all of it, immediately. Finally. Give me. I want it. I want it now. I value all of your support. None of you have to donate, but if you happen to have money to spare, then feel free to make an offering. Kiba said.
And immediately after that, the donations poured in, securing their gambling addictions for a while longer.
XXXXXXX.
Izuku looked at all of the kids' phone usages once more, glad to see that it was down once again. His rules had had various effects on the children. For Netsu, Sansen, Kei, Kyoku, and Yanda, it resulted in them basically going back to normal.
Only casually playing the games.
And for Kiba, Fu, Ken, and Shiruku, it caused quite a few changes as they were now looking for money to spend.
Well, not so much Kiba.
Kiba got her money very easily, and so basically she would enlist people to work for her, and they pay them.
Most notably Ken, Shiruku, and Fu.
Fu and Shiruku also did already have quite a bit of income, but seeing as they had it the worst when it came to addictions, they were pretty greedy when it came to money. Although Shiruku only actually charged Kiba for clothing, because she knew Kiba had the money to spend. That and Kiba had found that paying for her clothes actually made it satisfying.
This had also inspired Shiruku to work even harder on making her clothes.
Saying that one day she would have so much money, she wouldn't need to worry about how much she spent on gachas, which was good.
Fukunoko was in between the two groups.
She spent most of her time in her room, so there was not much stopping her from continuing to play the games for a while, but she didn't really have a way to get income. Well, at least that was the case.
XXXXXXXXX. A tea party.
Fuku panicked behind her door.
That's right. And this is my invitation to you. Kiba proclaimed from outside. Who else is coming? Fuku asked.
Maybe if it's just a few people, like Eri and Kei. Well, it's Eri, Kei, Fu, Yanda, Kyoku, and Nara, Momo, and Mina.
Kiba said. Nope. Too many people. Fuku refused. I can't do it. Nope. Now that I know how miserable your lifestyle is, I cannot allow you to simply sit and rot in that room. Kiba proclaimed, you're going. I'm not taking no for an answer. Eep. Are you gonna break down my door? Fuku asked fearfully. Nope. But, if you come to the tea party, I'll give you 3,000 yen. Kiba offered. Fuku paused, before taking out her phone, and looked at Pokemon Masters EX. On one hand, it's super scary. On the other, Lily looks really, really cute in that dress. As Fuku was thinking this over, Kiba gave an additional offer. And, you can sit between me and Eri. Don't worry. Nothing bad could happen with the two of us at your side. Kiba said proudly. There were a few moments of silence before Fuku gave her response. When is the tea party? That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 12. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.